Christopher Weller. I'm with Mistral, Inc. in Bethesda, Maryland. I'm the director of our product called C4Net. It's manufactured by Acceler Radio out of Israel. I'm going to give you basically the quick lowdown on it so that you can wrap your head around it. The device attaches to a tactical radio, a radio a soldier would take into the field. It addresses data over the legacy tactical radios that the service currently has, but does not currently supply any kind of a digital signal. So a legacy tactical radio will deliver an audio signal, you speaking on the radio, but it won't deliver things like text messages or advanced JVMF messaging, small pictures. That kind of advanced equipment that the Jitters initiative tried to solve or is solving with the more advanced handhelds that the Army is beginning to purchase today. So if you go to the next slide. And I want to start by saying that Acceler Radio looks back into Israel and tries to, Mistral looks back into Israel and tries to look for technologies that address operational gaps that they themselves currently have in their military forces. And then we try to bring those technologies to the United States. In this case, General McMaster's last year came out with an article that basically said that the Manpack radio had some shortcomings. Those shortcomings were things like size, weight, and power, got too hot. When the soldiers used the VHF waveform, the VHF waveform using the SRD waveform, they were unable to acquire the range they needed for the tactical radios. So we looked into Israel and we found that Acceler Radio manufactured a product, again C4Net, that allowed data to be placed over those legacy tactical radios. In our case, in the United States, we use SINGARs, and give that capability down to the soldier. Next slide, please. So again, C4Net addresses the VHF band, the SINGAR's waveform. It attaches to devices such as the Embidder handheld radio or the SINGAR's radio that would be in your vehicle. It's important to note that the Army has around 500,000 tactical radios, these legacy systems, that don't currently have a data capability. So as the Army goes forward and purchases these new jitter-type devices, these legacy tactical radios are going to be left behind. So the have-nots, the support units that will carry these legacy systems, won't have a data capability that the frontline combat units would have, such as with the rifleman radio. We intend to change that. We would like to see those SINGAR's radios have a data capability. Of course, we're working with ARCIC and TICM Tactical Radio, PM Tactical Radio to see where those opportunities lie. But units like the National Guard, for example, will have these SINGAR's radios probably in operational service past 2030. And so we can bring that data capability, everything minus video, to those frontline soldiers. Again, as we reach back into Israel looking for those technologies that fill their operational gaps, C4Net will become a program of record in the Israeli Defense Force, and they are solely focused, except for their special forces units, operating in that VHF band. So as we move forward to these more expensive soldier-defined radios, and the operational support units continue to use the VHF band, the legacy tactical radios, we see a lot of parallels in those support units and what Israel is trying to do. Again, VHF provides the soldier a long-distance communications capability, where the UHF high bandwidth data radios are much shorter in distance in communication. For example, when you use these SRD radios in an urban environment, you're talking about 3-4 blocks of communications because of the buildings blocking the signal, which makes it almost useless in an operational environment. The soldiers want to look back to the VHF handheld radio to give them that long-distance voice. So we're going to have that low bandwidth data capability over the legacy tactical radio. Next slide, please. not to drive you crazy with PowerPoint here, but there are a couple of things I want to point out here, and that is, when it comes to the data capability, we're looking at about 500 bits that we can modulate onto that VHF band. Again, that's not enough for us to provide a video like the UHF SRD waveform is trying to accomplish, but we can accomplish things like messaging. So if you could imagine yourself in a situation where you're in one Humvee and you want to communicate with the guy in the forward Humvee, and you just want to send a text message, not get on there and talk, you'd be able to type onto a little device that is attached to your embedder radio and send a text message like you do on your cell phone. This would be a giant step for that legacy tactical radio, and that's very interesting to the Army. Now, in addition, our devices all have PLI capability. So any soldier that is wearing our device is also transmitting his position, his or her position. So everyone in a talk group knows where everybody else is. This is kind of like a Net Warrior-like environment over the VHF band, legacy tactical radio, along with the capability to do that text messaging or sending spot reports like you would perform with your JVMF message sets, and be able to add that to even things like small pictures. It'd be very low bandwidth, very low resolution, but you could take a picture with a device and send it forward. Now the system is aimed at the company level and below. We would attach to the company level net, and everyone within the company would be able to have their position location information. And at the company level above, there would be somebody in charge of managing that network and making a decision how that information flows up to higher echelons. Next slide, please. These are the two basic devices. The one on the right-hand side, closest to my hand here, is the system, which we refer to as the bridge, that would really go into a vehicle. For example, we mount that into a Humvee or a Stryker, and that manages the talk group, let's say at the platoon level. That PLI information is collected here, and then it is allowed to be ported out onto other domains. We refer to it as a bridge or a switch, because this is the point at which we take our proprietary message set and then convert it into something else, meaning I could attach it to a satellite network, an IP network. I can bridge it from the VHF to the UHF world. Whatever the other domain is, this is the bridging point at which we would take it up. And I have another slide showing what we have performed at the Army Expeditionary Warfighter Experiment last year. The device, the trigger device that you see, the 3-port switch, is actually worn by the soldier up on the lapel area, connected to the tactical radio, connected to the hand mic, and a Net Warrior type device. Now we don't want to say a like device because we've never actually connected to Net Warrior, but we have an Israeli version that is in very close in how it operates, called Wingate. Next slide, please. This is how it is all laid out. So you have your embedder radio the soldier would carry on him. You have the C4 trigger device that is worn on the lapel. It is connected to Wingate, our little handheld PDA. This has mapping capabilities where you enter your texting information, take pictures. Again, it's a Net Warrior-like device. It could be connected to Army Net Warrior devices. We've communicated with those agencies, and that is underway hopefully here for the next AEWE experiment, and of course with your hand mic or your headset. The bottom picture over here was actually taken at AEWE last year. We were able to show position location of information of our individual soldiers in the field. This was ported out through the VHF band on the Singar's radios. It collected at the Humvee level, and then it was translated and allowed to be able to communicate with the soldier radio waveform on the rifleman radio, the Viper system, that was then sent up. So what happened here is we were able to take our proprietary message set, translate it to the JVMF message set, and then port it onto the Net Warrior screen. So we've actually accomplished these things, but we're still in the process of trying to connect with the soldier, the true Net Warrior devices. That'll be the next experiment. Next slide, please. So basically the way this is laid out, from left to right, an individual soldier would have a C4 trigger. This is the position location information, but he would not be able to enter any data. A squad leader or platoon sergeant would have the trigger plus the handheld PDA. At this point, he can enter information and share it. At the vehicle layer, we would have the bridge that would allow you to communicate between companies, bridge from one frequency over to another, one domain into another. And the picture here we have on the closest to me was it actually installed on a Stryker vehicle at AEWA. Next slide, please. Wingate, the Israeli version of this, the Net Warrior type device, provides again everything up to and minus video. In this case, we are able to show with the little blue triangles position locations of friendlies within our talk group. We can share that out over the company net so we could see other support units. The soldier is able to populate the screen with these red triangles, which would be enemy location, as well as other call for services, meaning I need to have access to a different network, or I need to have access to medical, any kind of message that you'd like to set up on there. Next slide, please. Again, at the AEWE experiment, we were able to show emphatically this connectivity with the JVMF message set, which allowed us then to progress to and have conversations with other groups within the Army. Again, the EOC3T, TICM Soldier, TICM BCT, CERDEC, a lot of the battle labs here within the United States Army, both at Fort Gordon, at Fort Benning. But it has made a very heavy-duty impression on what we can do with that legacy tactical environment, and that the Army doesn't have to spend huge amounts of money to just simply purchase new radios. We, in fact, can take the older radios, that 500,000 radios, and for about a fourth of the cost, upgrade them to have this Net Warrior-like capability. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Thank you.